Hey, hello, everybody, and welcome again to another session, part of the second edition of the Global Dev Week, an initiative by Encora. I'm really happy to be here with you because I will introduce the following session, a very, very special session because it's part of our friends from UPS. And I am so excited to introduce to both of you to Andrew and to Tim Smith. Andrew Hafford is a training manager for UPS who accelerates the adoption and development of state-of-the-art training tools. He has been named as an inventor on a US patent for the logistic driving simulator, the topic of this session, and is working to make augmented and mixed reality training widely adopted across the organization. Tim Smith, by his part, oversees the development of US operations training content, incorporating technology solutions and immersive technology to impact learner comprehension and speed to competency. He has worked in many capacities during his 36 years of experience at UPS. I'm so impressed about this part, Tim. You look very very young. I must
Thank
confess.
you. I
I can't
appreciate
believe that you have 36 years of experience and combines his experience with the desire to transform training as we know it at UPS. He is focused on developing and deploying training that has an immediate impact on the learner through simulated experiences, practice, and repetition. Guys, I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm pretty sure that the people will love this session. Let me just make a quick reminder for the audience to follow us on our social media appearing right now on the screen, and also to use the chat and comment box to leave comments, to leave questions, because I'm pretty sure that Andrew and Tim will be very glad to hear from you. It is part of the second edition of Global Dev Week. I don't going to spoil anything else about your session because it will be a very, very special session. So, Tim, Andrew, I pass the floor to you.
Hey, thank
Thank
thank you,
you.
Alexis. And we're really happy to be here too. And again, with the chats and comments, we're very interested to hear what you folks see as far as insights and questions, because they call us developers, right? It's kind of like practicing medicine. You never actually get to the end of it. So this is going to be our story about a success that we've had, and with the driving simulator at UPS. And Tim, I couldn't be happier to be actually presenting with you, just to kind of put an end cap over the last couple of years and what we've done
That's right.
together. It's been really really fun working with you, so this will be kind of fun for both of us to be officially presenting on what we've been able to do together. So
Yeah.
the driving simulator, I'll just give a quick overview of what we're actually talking about, just for folks that may not be familiar with it, because we say driving simulator, but it's not what you might typically see in regard to an interactive chair, steering wheel, just some screens. We're actually taking a UPS logistics vehicle and working through the entire delivery process with it. So right now we have the driving components, and we're starting to mix in some of the delivery components. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I just wanted to share a couple pictures with you folks early on, just to show what we're working toward and what it sort of looks like inside of the operation as an actual package car that we're adding technology to as a learning arcade. So Tim, this started in 2020, and we weren't actually working together at the time that this all began. So maybe you can take people through a little bit of the history of what started this off.
Yeah, for sure, Drew. Thank you. And hello, everyone. So I'm glad you showed those couple of photos there at the beginning, Drew. That was a perfect setup, because I'm going to back up a little bit to 2020 and the fall thereof, and really how we got started working together, and how far we've come with the driving simulator in a short period of time, at least by UPS standards. So just to kind of reference the photo in the upper right-hand corner, this really came about by the result of another project that Andrew and I were working on collectively, and it just evolved into what we know today as the driving simulator. In brief, the picture you see in the upper right is actually a UPS package car that has been cut down to an 8-foot long section and actually moved into the nose of a 53-foot trailer. And the original purpose of this is Andrew and I both have a background coming from UPS Integrad, which is our premier driver training school. Basically, every driver, every service provider that comes to your house, makes deliveries or pickups at your business, goes to a UPS Integrad location for 5 days. and they learn how to be a service provider and ambassador of the Shield. We fly people in for that school, and it's very expensive. So as part of this side project we were working on, we were challenged with taking that footprint for a brick and mortar site and putting it basically into 253-foot trailers. And the concept behind it was we were going to drive the training to the where the need is versus flying people in, which is cost prohibitive. And logistically, there's a lot of work behind it. So we had an 8-foot section of a package car. We put it in the nose of a 53-foot trailer. And you'll hear a little bit about our force plate at the end of the presentation. But basically, it was designed to teach drivers how to step on and off of the vehicle safely.
It all circled back around to the force plate, didn't it? That's
It
funny.
did, yeah.
We
It
finally
did.
made it. We finally made it back to the force plate.
Yeah, thank you. So stay with me here. That's Andrew in the driver's seat. You can see him there. And what we quickly learned is part of this, putting the package car into the nose of a trailer, was that we were staring at the wall of a trailer. So we really weren't thinking driving simulator at the time. We were thinking, let's paint a picture of a driving scene. Hey, let's get a poster. Hey, let's put a television up there and we'll change the scene each day. And really that evolved into what we're going to share with you today. So that's just a little bit about how it came about. I mentioned that Drew and I both came out of the driver training backgrounds. So really we wanted the simulator as we developed it. We wanted a self-guided environment that was free of hazards, free of distractions. And ultimately, the beauty of the simulator is it creates a consistent environment where the curriculum is specific to the driver pickup and delivery methods. And there's no wavering from it because everybody across the country gets the same message. We also have an opportunity to reduce crashes as part of a result of our space and visibility training that we'll talk about in a little bit. And then I've mentioned a couple of times already how important the delivery and pickup methods are to our business, making sure that our drivers arrive at your house or their destination on time. And that includes how to start and stop the vehicle properly. Before I kick it back to the next slide, we have 44 locations. So as you picture the driving simulator today, during the course of this presentation, just picture that we're nationwide and we occupy space in some of our larger delivery operations around the country.
Very nice. So when we were developing inside of that mobile training academy, one of the things that we learned is, okay, if we're going to have two 53-foot trailers and we're going to try to put it into that space, we have to have square footage to put those trailers on. We have to get permits to allow those trailers to be stationary. Where are folks going to use the restroom in that classroom environment? And we had all the interactivity of the school that we wanted, but we started realizing that our footprint was still too large. And that's where the spinoff of bringing the driving simulator as a standalone product was basically brought to the forefront. And some of our partners in California that were looking at the mobile training academy were saying, I like what's happening here, but can I just have the driving simulator piece of that? And so that's where the product actually started to evolve from. So the figure on the left-hand side is some of the work that we did in getting the product patented. But you can see all the indicators, the 114, 110, 106, those all indicate the interactive components inside of the vehicle. So we were thinking about the user experience. We didn't want a driver to get in and use a mouse and a keyboard or get into the wrong menu. So everything works as a kiosk. And we actually prototyped with an Arduino. And you can actually see me working with a harness up on the top right of the screen to make the horn interactive. The handrail is actually a capacitive touch sensor, like a touch lamp or a cell phone, where you just touch it and it'll give you a welcome message. The handheld device that the drivers use when they put it into the diode cradle, it's responsive. When you open up the cargo door to go get a package out of the back of the car, that's responsive. And so what that's done for us is it's made it more familiar to the driver group. Navigating the material is a lot more familiar, and the user experience is a lot better.
And Drew, that's a great point. And what's neat about that and some of the feedback we get and just some of the commentary is our drivers are telling us we're finally training them in their own office. No keyboard, no mouse. They're able to interact with the vehicle that resembles exactly what they're going to be driving for the length of a career. So that's pretty neat addition and something that we maybe didn't see coming at the very outset. So you see a very dilapidated UPS vehicle here on the screen. I'm very proud of this part, so I'm going to cover the next couple of slides. Sustainability is very important to UPS. And we have a lot of vehicles, upwards of 100,000 vehicles a day out on the street during our heaviest periods of the year. As a result, those vehicles reach the end of their life cycle eventually. So we can do one of two things, Andrew and I thought. We could send them to a junkyard to be crushed, or we could repurpose them and transform them to train the next generation of UPS driver service providers. So literally what you saw just happen on the screen in front of you is really what we do with the package cars that we acquire, which are basically at the end of their life cycle. We grab them off the fence before they're crushed. We provide a scuff and shoot, which is a fancy term for, we provide a paint job. We clean them up, make them look like brand new. We remove the engine, transmission, the fluids, anything that's hazardous. And then they're ready to become a driving simulator in that space. So that's really exciting from a sustainability perspective specifically. This next photograph here that you see, we take after the scuff and shoot and the paint job and cleaning it up and making it show quality once again. We work with 2 vendors across the United States that actually prep the vehicle in New Jersey and Oregon. And at that point, once the vehicle is ready to be delivered to a site to become a training fixture in a particular facility, put them on a flatbed trailer and we drive them there. At that point, the local folks perform the assembly of putting the televisions on. Prior to that, parking it in place. We have data and power that are supplied through the roof of the vehicle. And you can see the epoxy floor that the vehicle's backing are being pushed onto here. We try to really create a unique training space. This one in particular will eventually have barriers around it to help reinforce and define the fact that it's a training space for the future. And certainly we're not planning on going anywhere anytime soon, right, Andrew?
No. And actually I was gonna speak to that a little bit, because when you look at the amount of effort it takes to get this vehicle prepped and refinished and into the space, you might think, well, that's not as scalable as we would like. Um, but it's actually much more fast and adept than what we've done in the past, because we have 11 state-of-the-art training schools with their own square footage. We actually build a miniature town inside of those schools, and they actually pick up and deliver packages, going from one stop to another, pretending to pick up and deliver packages. So we're actually using space in the yard for picking up and delivering packages. We're using space inside of a building where people can practice on cars that have been refinished like that. And now we actually have driving simulators inside of those spaces. And every driver that we put through those schools, we see outstanding results. Wow, this personalized primacy training results in our drivers being safer, more proficient in their work. The customers are happier. The packages are getting delivered. There's reductions in all the places we want reductions, and improvements in all the places we want improvements. But when you try to scale that, so during peak season, we're putting on, and Tim, correct me, I think it's like 100,000 people, right?
Right.
So we're trying to onboard 100,000 people, and we want state of the art training. How do we scale that appropriately so we're getting hands on training, not just computer based training, not just somebody telling them what they should do, but actually handling a package car, actually understanding how the vehicle will work, actually feeling what it's like to select packages out of the back. And so this is actually a very powerful way of taking the hands on training, miniaturizing it, and then using technology over the top of a single car, as opposed to having to integrate a whole facility. And there's a lot of different ways that we can integrate this space that we've captured now, to teach much more than just driving practices. Right? We make our money back on this just from the reduction in crashes, and honestly, just the employee conversations that are a result of it. But the potential for teaching the full delivery cycle is really high. And I guess I'll let you speak to that a little bit, Tim.
Now, Drew, that previous picture, that was a great example of what those finished out training spaces look like. And certainly we're going to talk a little bit in the next several minutes about what the space will look like in the future. I got a preview of the next slide there, but that's really what it looks like today. As we move into the future, when we talk about technology and training coming together as one and continuing on that path together, this slide calls it mini grad. We're really looking to create a training arcade for everybody from our part-time hourly folks our full-time hourly folks, our management teams. We want these to be training facilities for everybody. So job specific skills, job specific training. And that's the reason that we captured such a large footprint within the facility, is so that we can build out some of the concepts you see here on the slide over the course of the next several years as technology unfolds in front of us. So really exciting in terms of where we're going next. Drew, I'll start with this slide, then I'll kick it to you. But just a couple of really neat integrations. I mentioned the 44 locations around the country. We're trying to expand that as fast as we can. We have plans at some point to go international. And then as far as the technology goes, Andrew, hats off to him. He's done a nice job incorporating visibility on who's gone through training, when they took the training, and how they did on the training through the driver's computer that they carry around, which is in that picture with the green circle around it at the top. But really, he found a way to connect the actual simulator space with the device that they use every day to complete their job and provide us visibility behind the scenes on who's gone through that training. So that's incredibly beneficial. And Drew can talk a little bit about that as we go forward. Slips falls are a big thing. As we all know, conditions change out there, sometimes on a daily basis, if not on a weekly, monthly, seasonality basis. So slips falls are really one of our highest priorities as we start to build out these spaces. Is sounds simple to say walk safe, but it's not always as easy as you might think when those conditions change. And then Drew's going to talk a little bit about the augmented reality, so I'm going to skip that and leave that for him.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about that. So I actually have some things to test after I get off the call. One of our developers, Gian, just said he's got an update that he sent across to the headset. But what what we allow by actually having a physical space, package cars that are the same model and size, is we're creating an opportunity for prototyping, testing, and actually deploying one-to-one solutions in the real world. So I know that we talk about, oh, what if we could replicate a package car and deliver training on any package car? Well, that's the future we're moving toward. But first, we have to be able to test and develop it, and we have to have a package car that's similar in size, shape, dimensions, and environment, so that we can actually build that software and develop it. And so we kind of have a go slow to go fast approach. Right now, we have televisions hooked to a package car that's creating an immersive environment, and that's really cool, and people are really enjoying that. But future state, the opportunities by having a package car that's going to be relevant for at least the next decade as far as a training platform, you have an opportunity now. We can take an Internet of Things solution and integrate that. We're right now we're looking at putting an interactive television on the side of the car where we can do 2D interactive type games. And then the what Tim was talking about with the augmented reality, we can actually use that same prototype area and space to build out and deliver augmented reality experiences. So imagine, and this is future state, this is not what we have today. Right now, we're just working on selecting holographic packages out of the back of the vehicle. But imagine future state as augmented reality progresses and the technology and the hardware catches up to what everybody's dreams are about it. We can build a city around this car and navigate that city from the driver's seat, park the vehicle in the proper place, and actually pick up and deliver packages to different streets and addresses inside of that metaverse. So that's really the end goal is, can we take that square footage that we have for our elite training schools that we see such great results from, and really condense that down and say to an operation, hey, in your building, we can deliver you a single package car and some space around it. And inside of that piece of hardware, you're actually going to have all of the material you need to train a driver and get them not only from uh, brand new to understanding the job, but brand new to physically proficient in the job and actually able to pick up and deliver packages without ever putting a car at risk, without ever putting a customer service issue at risk or even a package at risk. So it's a really exciting thing, and we've got, I think, a really good roadmap because we've built this environment in the physical world in our training facilities, and all we have to do is port those training ideas using technology one at a time in a high quality and methodical fashion into this single training space. So we really have a roadmap for the future that I think is sustainable and exciting. And just as an example of that, we're starting to port some of those trainings across. So we've got a more expandable menu driven platform. Before, it was just three options as far as your trainings inside of the driving simulator. Now we have more of a carousel menu where you can navigate to additional trainings. We added an additional training to that. That's interactive, and it uses the brake pedal and teaches you how to use following distance correctly and drive safely. And then we're even adding local content. So if we send out basically camera equipment to our local partners, they're able to go capture footage, and we can actually cycle that footage back into the driving simulator and take trainings that our people want to see. We can actually solicit that from our people that are out in the world and say, what would you like to see in the driving simulator? They say, we want to see these three situations. We can actually send them the equipment to go capture those for us, and put it back into the simulator. Another good example, and I think I'll let Tim kind of cover this because this circles back around to the beginning. But in the very beginning, we were just trying to get this force plate into our 53-foot trailer space. So I'll let Tim kind of talk to this as it's come full circle.
Yeah, hey Drew, I'll just touch on that carousel of training real quick. You did a great job. What's neat about it is when I'm sitting in the driver's seat, or any learner sitting in the driver's seat, they have that option, like Drew described it, to really select. Picture your favorite streaming service out there, to really select which training they'd like to participate in, which is fantastic. The menu that you see there was just delivered to us by Encora, so great partnership there. And then, as Drew said, we're bringing in first responders, police officers, firefighters as subject matter experts, and we've got that local content, Drew. So great job, exciting times ahead. As it pertains to the force plate, think about this. Your average driver, I'm just going to throw a number out, rough number. Your average driver that services the majority of the houses, at least in the US, 150 stops a day, which means they're in and out or on and off of the package car 150 times a day. So the importance of getting on and off the car is heightened just because of the sheer number of attempts they're going to make at that. So the force plate, in simple terms, just measures the effectiveness when you're using the handrail getting in and out, and how that reduces the impact on your hips, ankles, joints, knees, back, when you exit using the handrail versus if you would, for example, just step out without any kind of additional support. It can add up over the course of time. So the force plate's a neat addition to the training arcade or the mini grad concept that we've talked about. We're deploying it rather this week. We're receiving force plates across the simulator locations, and we're getting some very positive feedback. Initially, there's a QR code there. We supply instructions virtually for the folks around the country that are going to use it and facilitate the activity. It's a neat next step for us in a very simplified way to just teach drivers how to get on and off the car safely.
I think that does highlight one of the things that we're trying to do too with the QR code, because there's two ways that we see this simulator being used in its current state and in its future state. One, we want to make a facilitator, a high quality trainer, that much more effective. So we use circuit based training inside of our schools. So we have a 1-to-6 ratio as far as student to teacher ratio. One instructor is able to take care of six students because there's self-guided trainings that are happening inside the facility while they're driving on the real streets around the facility with one of their trainees. So we can do that same thing here by creating stations around the single package car, creating 5 stations so that these students can be self-occupied, self-trained, while that instructor is doing one-on-one instruction with another one of the trainees. The other thing that we want to do is, what if somebody approaches this space and there isn't an instructor there, a facilitator? We want it to be welcoming, and that's the idea behind the QR codes as well. And even when you touch the handrail, it gives you instructions. It says, welcome, put your diet in the diet cradle, put your seatbelt on, and select the training you would like to do. So everything's welcoming. Everything is automated to the point where we believe that a person that wants to receive training can walk into the space and get what they're looking for. And so this is just one little sneak preview of what we're working on right now. It's actually quite a bit more developed than what you're seeing right now in the headset. This is what Gion's sending across to me as the next iteration. But this is in the back of a driving simulator. And what you see on the left hand side are the green holographic shelf positions that we've mapped out inside of the back of the car. And what is happening with that touch the 4000 shelf, touch the rear door right, is it's giving me instructions on which portion of the car it wants me to load a package to. And so you can see how training in this way is much different than training with a cell phone video or with a piece of paper, or even having an instructor there saying, hey, that's the 1000 shelf, that's the 3000 shelf. The learner actually has to engage, go to that shelf, feel what it physically looks like, to interact with that shelf in the right way. And so as we start to develop and learn how to use the technology and be more aggressive about how to adopt it, I think we're going to see incredible results in areas where it was pain points before. As far as there's a lot of description that goes into how to train these shelf positions, it takes a lot of one-on-one time to get a person to be able to load these cars efficiently. Now we're going to create games and actually have our people enjoying their training,
Yeah.
and doing it in an automated way. So
Drew, that's a great point. I think that we've always had Drew and I have always worked under the premise of if you're having fun while you're training, you don't really actually even know that you're learning something. You're simply just immersed in that environment. The neat thing about the augmented reality that Drew touched on is you reduce the need for physical assets, cardboard boxes, tape, weights to put in those packages to make it realistic. We can train using that augmented reality, and that's really the future for us, as Drew described so well, is making sure that we can scale this. It's available to everybody, and ultimately, our trainees are the learners having fun and enjoying training, which means that they'll retain it longer and utilize it, and that's the most important thing.
yeah, so I really appreciate that. I mean, we're in a really good spot right now. We're at the kind of we've had some successes and we have some plans for the future. But it's been really fun talking with you about this, Tim.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
just kind of looking back at where we've come from.
yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway that I would like people to know is, choosing in the metaverse which things need to be physical and which things need to be replaced with those holographic experiences, or how do we make things more approachable for our people. I think the approachability and the user experience is huge, that a person can walk up to it and enjoy it and get something out of it. But
That's well
no,
said.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun, Andrew. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I know there's going to be an offer to drop some questions. We'd love to hear from folks as you maybe watch the video and have questions a little bit down the road. Andrew and I would just love to hear from you and provide whatever answers we can. So it's been fun, Drew. Thank you.
All righty. Well, Alexis, thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we had. I don't know if you have any parting thoughts or questions, or if you'd like us to dig a little bit more into any of the details.
Wow, I must confess I'm speechless, guys. First of all, congrats on this wonderful project. I must confess that I love every step as you were mentioning, but I
Thank you.
must to say that the icing on the cake was a part of the sustainability that you mentioned, where you select the past cars to in order to work with them. It's definitely, I love this project. It is very interesting. The part of the takeaway that you mentioned at the end, I think it's going to be really useful for those who are working now with metaverse. And maybe the only question that I could have for you is that what do you consider to be the biggest challenge that you face during all this process? I don't know if it was in the creation, ideation, implementation. So I don't know what kind of comments could you share with us about this part.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll go first. Drew's going to tell you I want to go too fast, and that's not always the right answer. Right, Drew?
You pretty much pegged it. Did you have another one, or were you just
That
calling
was,
what I
that
was
was
about
it.
to
The,
say?
the floor is yours. That was it.
Okay, yeah. So Tim was right. When you work for an organization this large, I mean, we have incredible leadership. The culture here is amazing. They want to
Yeah.
develop and they want to drive us into the future. We actually had a leader take us aside and say, "Hey, we pay you to think of these things and develop and push us to that next level." But I mean, think of the temptation. Right now, we have four televisions creating a simulated experience around a package car. It would be very easy to say, oh, we can just take four TVs, slap them on a wall, and have the same thing. But what that does is, even though that's an easier route and you might get some early results from that, it's not going to be sustainable, to your point, into the future. Those four televisions are going to run out of use cases very quickly, and the technology is going to be deprecated very quickly. It's not the technology that makes this project so special, it's the package car. That package car and that space gives us a safe place to try new technologies. So that package car will be there training drivers long after we've taken the televisions off and replaced it with metaverse equipment. And hopefully, if those package cars, stay in a sustainable way, over the course of the next couple of decades, we might even see the next iteration past the metaverse in that same training space, because we're creating the environment physically where the technology can thrive. And so that's really the big breakthrough that we've had. We've tried delivering headsets to folks in the past. They end up in a lap drawer. Maybe somebody doesn't know how to use them. When you give an environment that people walk to and they say, this is a training space, and there's a place for the headset to live, a place for it to be charged, a network for it to connect to, you solve a lot of those logistics problems, and then people walk into that space ready to learn. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is just making sure that as we build it, we take the time to make sure that we leave the door open for future expansion.
I was muted.
Oh, there you
Um,
go.
no, really, really wonderful insights, and now I know why I was reading on your bio that you were naming inventors on the logistic driving simulator patent. So now I will modify the placards below of you in order that mention that you are also inventors of this project. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. Really, thank you so much. Probably
Yep.
the audience will have more specific, more technical questions about this project. So this is a moment, people who are watching this session, to leave the comments, to leave questions, because I'm pretty sure that Andrew and Tim will be very glad to answer anything related
Absolutely.
to this presentation. And we are getting to the closing part of this recording. So I don't know if you want to share anything else before to close this session, Tim, Andrew.
I'm just grateful that you had us on, and again, it's fun working with a partner like Tim, and working with partners like you folks, and it's awesome that you have something like this where we can all get together and learn from each other. So,
Well
um,
said.
yep, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you having us. Thank you so much for the invite. Look forward to the next one.
Yeah, for sure. Probably it's gonna be the first for many occasions in the future. Then we will have
Very good.
a content from UPS as part of the Global Dev Week. Thank you so much, Tim and Andrew. I hope to see you again soon. And people, it is time to return to the official website in order to watch the full agenda, because the following session is starting at this moment. Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bye now.